All right. I've got some great information for you would-be entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs, or I should say self-employed because, you know, being a business owner and self-employed are not necessarily the same things. So I'm going to share some information with you. So we coach real estate investing and entrepreneurship and leadership. Obviously, I say we because it's not just me, but we have quite a few conversations with people that are just starting their business out. And what I see most of the time is people are making money doing a thing, and what they're doing is they just keep doing what they need to do to make that money, to do that one particular thing. They don't have a conversation about, okay, well, how do we make this into a legitimate business? For example, let's say you are a consultant and you do bookkeeping, and whatever you're doing is working. Maybe it's word of mouth, maybe you're generating enough revenue to leave your conventional job, but that's as far as it goes for a lot of people. So when we coach people on the entrepreneurship side, there has to be some sort of framework. And even though it could be far more complicated than this, we have to start with the 8 areas that every entrepreneur must focus on. And this doesn't matter whether it's a real estate investing business, whether you make candles to sell, whether you're a consultant for basket weaving, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So we go by these 8, and the first thing we do is we have to have a starting point. For me, that starting point is always going to be market understanding. Now we have to build this out with clients because many people come to us and they just have an idea. So it's up to us to take that idea and strategize so we can bring it to market, right? So we always start number one with market understanding. We want to identify who we serve and what they truly need. So when we focus on that area, I ask 2 questions. One is, who's your ideal customer and what urgent problem are you solving? Now, keep in mind, a lot of folks, when they go through this process, come to the conclusion that, well, maybe that's not a business that I should start, right? Because it's going to force you to be confronted with challenges and all of the things that can go wrong and the whole nine, right? I call it the seasoning process of entrepreneurship. For example, if we go through this process and you're somebody that wants to start a business making screen doors for submarines, eventually through our line of questioning, you're going to come to the conclusion that that's a stupid idea, right? Obviously, submarines go underwater, so screen doors probably wouldn't be a big sales uh, point for the defense contractors who make submarines, right? That's a far fetched illustration, but it's an example of some of the things we go through while we're going through this process. So the first thing is market understanding. Who do you serve? What do they need? Who's your ideal customer? And what urgent problem are you solving? Now, maybe it doesn't have to be an urgent problem, but you have to at least identify a problem that you're solving. So we have to build that out with you. And sometimes it's a lot of back and forth conversation, brainstorming, but we don't move forward until we cross that bridge. And once we figure that out, then we move to the next phase. Now, the next phase is offer creation. Now you got to create an offer. You want to develop a clear, irresistible offer. So, what exactly are you selling, and why would somebody choose you over someone else? So, let me give you an illustration. I am the founder of the 4 Data Points Academy. That's a real estate investing training platform. Are there other real estate investing training platforms? Absolutely. But our platform doesn't have an end date. And we're very intentional about not disrupting your current life. So we have classes in the evenings, and we're also the only program that doesn't have an end date. I understand it takes a long time to turn someone into a seasoned real estate investor. So we remove the end date so people can go at their own pace, right? So what am I selling in that case? A long-term mentorship, professional relationship. Why would somebody choose me over somebody else? Because we are the most cost effective. I have the most experience across the entire real estate space. We don't have an end date, and we're priced 70% of what our at about 70% less than what our closest competitors are offering similar support for. And we're very intentional about that. We started the company because we wanted to bring real estate investing to the everyday person. So what are we selling? Real estate investing education, mentorship, and support. Why would somebody choose us over others? Well, I just gave you a list of reasons. So we have to build that out for you. I'm going to ask those questions. What are you selling, and can you articulate it in one or two sentences? See, when I ask people in the beginning what they're selling, they go into the whole story. Well, when I was 3, me and my mom used to make these candles. And what are you selling? Well, and then one day, I decided I can make some money off. What are you selling? No, you're selling candles, right? So the goal is to get people so dialed in to what their offer is and what they're selling and why somebody would choose them over somebody else that they can articulate it in just a couple of sentences. So that's the second phase. I'm going to take you guys through all 8. Now, the third is a sales system. What is your sales system? How do we build a repeatable sales process? How do we turn interest into paying customers? And what is the step-by-step sales process or sales flow that we're going to build out? Now, I'll give you an example. There's a reason why all of us probably get way too many packages from Amazon on our porch. I get so many packages from Amazon, I'll go and buy something, not realizing that I just bought the thing 4 weeks ago and it's sitting in a closet somewhere. Well, we do that because Amazon makes it so easy, and they remove all of the friction from the thought of, oh, I'm interested in this thing, to it showing up on our porch. So I was talking to a young lady. And I've said this example before, she was scheduling a call for a real estate investing mentorship, and she didn't have the money for it. So while I had her on the phone, now keep in mind, in my mind, I'm straight entrepreneur. So I'm very, very direct, because we have an objective we're going to meet. Either we're going to meet it or we're not. And if we're not going to meet that objective, why? Because time is valuable to me. If something's broke, we fix it. So while I had her on the phone, I said, well, how are you putting food on the table? Because our entry level is $6,000. If you can't come up with $6,000, you shouldn't be invested in real estate anyway, unless you are very, very seasoned and you know how to do all the creative stuff. But she wasn't there. So I said, well, how are you putting food on the table? She said, well, I sell clothes. I said, all right, great. I want to buy some of your clothes. Where do I go? She goes, well, if you go to my Instagram, you can pick out something that you like, then send me a DM, and then I'll see if we have it available. Then I'll reach back out to you via direct message, and then we can That's too much. By that time, I forgot I even wanted the thing. She didn't have a repeatable sales process or a process to turn interest into a paying customer. So I coached her on some of those things that she could do for very, very low cost. And then, we parted ways as friends. But if you don't have a repeatable sales process, you're not going to be able to scale that business up. And if you want to achieve, this is important, if you want to achieve the lifestyle that you want to achieve, at some point, you need to get to the point where you can step away from the business and the business runs itself. So build a repeatable sales process. How do we turn interest into paying customers? And how do we come up with a step-by-step sales flow? We have to build that out for people based on their industry. Now, while I'm going through these, keep in mind, we have our VentureU brand, which is under the 4 Data Points Academy. Obviously, we started out as real estate investing, education, and mentorship. But the goal was always to incorporate the big 3: real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and leadership. And leadership is just as important as the rest. And I'll tie all these together as I go through this. But if you have an idea or you're thinking about starting a business, we have an international business retreat. We fly in all of the consultants. We house everybody in one villa. I have executive chefs come in. We take care of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. 2026, April 1st through April 6th is our next retreat. It's in Medellin, Colombia. We don't even have to market it. It'll sell out before we even market it. Most of the time, I'm just putting it out there to the people on my database. But if you're seeing this and you're not, reach out to us and we can get you a brochure, because it's one of the very unique events where we underpromise and way over deliver. So if you have an idea that you want to bring to market, you have a business that you want to scale up, $0 to $5 million, then that's probably going to be the event for you. If you want something stateside virtual, we also have a 6-week program under the VentureU brand, which is 3 weeks entrepreneurship, 3 weeks leadership. If you want information on that, reach out to us and I'll make sure that you get it. So when we are building somebody's business out, we start with the market understanding, right? Identify who they serve and what they actually need. And then within that topic, who's your ideal customer? What urgent problem are you solving? Those are questions that have to be answered. Then once we've mastered that, we move on to the offer creation, developing a clear, irresistible offer. What are you selling exactly? And why would somebody choose you over somebody else? And you have to be able to articulate that in 1 or 2 sentences. Then we move into the sales systems, because guess what drives revenue? Sales. You can have the perfect business, but if it doesn't have a sales system, how are you going to fund it? Where are you getting your revenue from? So we help people build a repeatable sales process. We help them figure out how to turn interest into paying customers. And then we help them build out a step-by-step sales flow. Now, once we've done that, now we get into marketing strategy. So we started with market understanding, and then we eventually get into marketing strategy. Marketing strategy is you creating awareness that attracts your ideal clients. So where does your ideal customer spend time, and how do you consistently reach them? Now, each one of these topics, every one we build out for you, with you, for you, right? We need your input, right? It's your business. But let me give you an illustration on why that's important, your marketing strategy, because you have to make decisions on where to deploy capital. Now, in the real estate investing training side of things of our organization, one day I noticed that when we were looking at analytics, we have a lot of nurses, registered nurses or RNs in our program. Like relative to all of the other professions, it's overwhelming, right? And they just gravitated towards our program for some reason. There's no rhyme or reason. So we do workshops around the country, and at peak, we'll do 12 to 15 cities. So I have to make a decision. When I do these workshops, I don't make them super big, right? Because I want to be able to actually engage with people. So we max at about 50 people that come to these workshops. And these workshops cost me about, I don't know, maybe $6,000, $7,000 to put on. They're not very huge, right? And when I'm making the decision to deploy that capital, and now I have this new information that a large majority of the folks in our program are in the healthcare industry, I have to make a choice. Do I have a workshop in one of the cities that's on our schedule? Or do I reach out to the Nurses Association and look at the healthcare conventions and just get a booth at the healthcare conventions? What do you think is going to yield larger profit? Right? Now, there's a lot of variables that can influence turnout to things like that. But that's the thought process. We have to take those analytics and make business decisions based on that information. So marketing strategy, you need to understand how to create awareness and attract your clients. And in order for you to do that, you need to understand where your clients spend time and then come up with a plan to consistently reach them. All right. Now, once we get past marketing strategy, now we're getting into meat and potatoes, the operations and systems. Operations and systems are extremely important. Why? Because it allows your business to run efficiently. And I'll give you an example in just a second. So how do you design efficient systems that remove bottlenecks? Obviously, most people don't know how to do that, so we build that out with them. What tasks can be systematized or delegated? Well, first you have to identify those tasks, right? And then you have to come up with a plan to be able to systematize them and pass it off to somebody. So if you have an executive assistant, virtual assistant, that's where that comes into play. And then how would you track key performance numbers? First of all, what are your key performance numbers? So we have to teach that, right? We have to be able to identify the numbers that we need to be able to, that we need to be paying attention to, that are going to give us an indication on how well we're doing as a business. So when you hear KPIs, that's what they're talking about, key performance indicators. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you cold call and you sell gift baskets. So you're calling all these companies and you're trying to gain some traction selling your gift baskets. And out of 100 calls, the person that makes the decision, 50% of the time, you can't even get a hold of them. All right. So now you're at 50. All right. So 50 of those calls, write it off. You can't even reach the person. All right. Now, out of the 50 remaining, let's say 25 of those calls, the people just aren't interested. Out of the 25 remaining of the people that are interested, let's say 15 of them just don't have the budget for it. Now you've got those 10 people that buy your baskets, and those are your clients. So when you start looking at analytics and key performance indicators, you know that you have to make 100 calls to get 10 sales. So if you need 50 sales, guess what? Now you have to make 500 calls. That's just a very simple entry-level illustration of how key performance indicators help you make business decisions. All right. Y'all got to forgive me. I think I had, before I jumped on this video, I had a pre-workout. I was going to go work out. And then I was like, oh, shoot, let me do this video real quick. And now my pre-workout is kicking in. That's why I'm tripping over adverbs and pronouns and all that stuff. So operations and systems, what tasks can be systematized or delegated? How do you track key performance numbers? All right. Now, once we figure that out, well, actually, so it's a lot. We spend a bit more time on operations and systems. I'll give you another example of how we use this to free up our time. Now, keep in mind, as an entrepreneur, my job is not to be sitting behind an Excel spreadsheet. My job is not to be in Canva doing posts. My job is not to be doing all of the smaller tasks. My job is to be executing the vision for the 4 Data Points Academy, VentureU, and AscendU, which is our leadership and personal development. My job is to let as many people know what we do as possible, right? That is my job, to execute the vision of the company. Now, I'll do TikTok lives. I do probably about 4 a week, maybe 5, and they go 2 to 3 hours. And we're teaching about real estate investing. We're teaching about entrepreneurship. We're teaching about some leadership stuff. And I have a call to action on these lives. And the call to action is, if you text this phone number, I'll get you the information you need if you want more information about what it is we do. Now, I have automation set up that when they text that phone number for the first time, they get an auto text return that has 6 options. All they have to do is pick one. And the options are you interested in one of the lessons that I spoke about? And if they pick that, another automation kicks in. It'll offer 3 lessons. All right. And I think one of them is, one has to do with real estate investing. The other one has to do with what I'm going over now, the 8 areas business owners must master. And then I had another one that is how to underwrite multifamily commercial assets. Right? Now, the second one is, do you want more information about the 4 Data Points Academy? They pick that. They get a brochure sent to them. That's a separate automation process that kicks in. Another one is, are you interested in our VentureU entrepreneurship training? And there's an automation for the International Business Retreat if they select that. And there's an automation for the 6-week program that we're launching. By the way, we're only taking 10 people up front for that. So the waiting list is on now if you guys are interested. And then there's another option. I don't recall what it is because we're changing them around right now. And then there's a 6th option that says other. And if it's other, a different process kicks in. I'm notified, and then I'll jump in. Myself or my assistant will reach out to you, most likely her, to see how it is that we can help you. Now, do you know how much time it would take me to respond to everybody during these lives? And these lives average, 50, 60 people coming and going. They're all texting at different times. I need to stay on the live, so I can't do that. So I have systems, processes that kick in, automations, all of that falls under operations and systems. You see what I mean? So it allows me to get freed up so I can focus on what's important and not stop every 2 minutes to respond to somebody's text message. Amen? All right, you guys picking up what I'm putting down? Then we get into financial clarity. Now, financial clarity is, first of all, you can't grow your numbers if you don't know your numbers, all right? So we focus on, what are your monthly expenses? What are your income targets? And then we transition into, okay, now how are you managing cash flow? Now, this is a reality check that I give all new entrepreneurs. This is where most business owners fall short. They focus on making money, but ignore managing it, all right? So without clear targets and control over cash flow, even great businesses can crash, all right? Moving on, then we get into team and leadership. Now, this is where a lot of people have a problem because they're like, I can't afford to hire a team. I'm not even making any money yet. That's not what I'm referring to. You build support as you grow. You can't do it all forever. So where we focus is, what roles need to be filled next? We don't focus on, can you afford to pay for these roles? Let's identify them and let's describe them as if we had an endless amount of money. We can hire anybody we wanted. Let's create the job recs for that. All right? And then how will you lead and manage a small team? See, some people have never managed anybody before. It's not as easy as just telling people what to do. There's a lot that goes into that. So we have to train people not just what to do, but who to be. And sidebar, one of the things about achieving any level of success, a lot of people struggle with this, is you lose the luxury of being 100% who you are all the time. Now, because there's so many people depending on my ability to perform, I lost that luxury a long time ago. That means I always have to be the bigger person. That means I can't react to any negativity on the internet the way that I normally would, because if I mess this thing up, that means somebody else, it's going to impact their ability to put food on the table. All right. Sidebar. It's very important. It's hard to coach people through that. It's a tough pill to swallow. And now the eighth thing, and I'll do a recap for you guys before I shut this down. The eighth thing we talk about is mindset and personal growth. If I had to identify the number one contributor to my success, it was my willingness and ability to invest in this. This is the most valuable asset we have, and people do not invest in it. And that's one of the biggest, I think, gaps between somebody with a poor person's mentality and somebody with a wealth mindset. All my wealthy friends, they value information, they value knowledge. My poor friends value stuff, cars, clothes, jewelry, right? All that stuff is meaningless, right? Those things are nice, I understand, but money and all of those nice things, if that's what you're into, should be a byproduct of you doing good business, and that shouldn't be the focus, right? Because then you start to prioritize the wrong things, start spending money where you shouldn't. So, mindset and personal growth, your business could only grow as much as you do. So, question number one, what habits or beliefs do you need to strengthen? Or what limiting beliefs do you need to eradicate? So, some of you, if you've been following me at all, I have it's a lesson, not really a guide, it's a lesson. It's called Start Anyway. And it identifies the 20 top reasons that people never start their business or that major venture, and how to eradicate the thought process behind getting rid of those thought processes. Now, it's okay to have them, we're human. But if we do nothing and let those negative thought processes fester, then we give them power over our decision-making process. And in some cases, how we view ourselves when we look in the mirror, and it could just mess up everything. So we do focus on mindset and personal growth. Now, do I have the credentials? Am I just smart enough to be able to coach people on the mindset and the personal growth? I would like to think so, but I would also like to think that I could be a fighter pilot. But yet here we are. Now, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Alfred Smith, he's leading the mindset and personal growth. He's leading anything having to do with leadership. He has his doctorate in organizational leadership, and he's partnering with us, the 4 Data Points Academy, our VentureU program, our VentureU program. He's going to head this up, and a man ain't no joke. All right, so he's going to get you to where you need to be. So what habits or beliefs do you need to strengthen, and how are you protecting your energy and focus? Oh, I could talk 5 hours about how you protect your energy and focus, or the impact of not doing that, right? How are you protecting your energy and focus? You'll get to a point where you realize once you reach a certain level, there's just certain conversations you're not supposed to be in. All right. You no longer have the need to show everybody that you are right, right? That your point of view is a smart point of view for fellow intellectuals, right? You just learn to stay out of conversations, because any conversation that you partake in that doesn't achieve a particular outcome is taking away from you. Now, there's a term called opportunity cost, and we hear it in the financial world. Opportunity cost is the opportunity that you forego because you took advantage of what was right in front of you, right? So let's say I'm deploying $1,000 into this project. I can take $1,000 and turn it into $10,000, right? So if I use that $1,000 and deploy it for this project, the opportunity cost is the $10,000 I could have made elsewhere. I use the same concept for my time and my energy. So be cognizant of the opportunity costs involved. Protecting your energy and protecting your focus. There is something called fatigue. And I didn't realize what fatigue was until I experienced it. I just thought, okay, well, why are people getting fatigued? If you're tired, take a nap. Mental fatigue usually hits you too late, right? Too late. And it starts impacting your ability to conduct business. And that's a serious thing, actually. So I have to protect my energy. I have to protect my focus. So if somebody wants to occupy my time, they have to pay for it. If I'm giving my time away for free, that means I'm investing my time in that person. And my return is them acting on the information that I've given them, and go being profitable or go being successful with it, or whatever the objective is. Amen. All right. Now, Those are the 8 areas we focus on when we are coaching people on the entrepreneur side. For Data Points Academy is a real estate investing trading platform. The VentureU is under that umbrella. That is entrepreneurship. AscendU is personal development and leadership. Okay. We have an international business retreat. Medellin, Colombia is the next one. It is April 1st through April 6th, 2026. We are going to cover all of these things at the retreat. So you would fly into Medellin March 31st. I've got executive chefs. They're going to take care of all the food. We've got a big villa. Everybody is going to be housed in the villa. The VIPs are also going to be housed in the villa, but they're going to have some other events with myself and some of the other speakers at my villa, which is a different villa. And we're going to have a real good time. This is going to be our second one. For those that can't go international or can't get away, we have a 6-week program under the VentureU brand where we focus on all of the things that I just talked about. That's 3 weeks, and then personal development and leadership for the second 3 weeks. So it's 6 weeks. Myself and a couple other people are going to be facilitating the first 3 weeks. Dr. Alfred Smith is going to be facilitating the last 3 weeks of that 6-week program. There you go. If you have any questions, you know how to reach out to me. If you want a brochure or more information about any of the things that I mentioned, go ahead and reach out and I'll make sure I get it to you. Until then, you enjoy the rest of your day.